Hey there, I'm Jenny from Lovemore to Live, where we talk about relationships and getting you healthy so that all your relationships can be healthy. Today we're talking about 8 ways we can improve couple communication. How does your communication work? Does it work? Is it functioning? Are you able to resolve your issues through communication, or do you just fight about it, never get a resolution, or sweep it under the carpet and move on? Well, that's not going to give you much relational satisfaction. Now, if you're married, this is going to be great for you, but if you're not married, these tips will still help you because they apply to any relationship and they can be put into practice wherever you are, with your work colleagues, with friends, with family. Let me begin by saying that communication is a skill that can be learned, and ask me, because I didn't know how to verbally communicate very well when Richard and I got married. He had to teach me. He had to say to me, come on, just say it however you can. Just try and express what you're feeling. And it was so hard for me to actually take my thoughts and put them into words. It was something that I had to really learn to do. And I'm thankful that I have a husband who's a communicator and who's always willing to talk about a thing until it's resolved. So the aim is not to only have to talk about issues when they arise, but you want your communication like a well-oiled machine that's running well, so that when you hit stress or you hit a crisis, that your communication will just continue and you'll be able to resolve your conflict without having a big blow up or with it just falling apart altogether. Proverbs 18 verse 21 tells us that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So the way that we communicate, how we communicate, can either bring life to our relationship or it can bring death to our relationships. And just learning a few skills can help us go a long way in bringing life to our relationships. You know, good communication is the lifeblood of relationships. So the better your communication is, the more relational satisfaction you will experience. And so that's the aim we're looking for. Now, just because you maybe talk a lot doesn't mean you're communicating well. Excessive talking doesn't equal communication, because communication demands expressing yourself, but also good listening skills. So good communication happens when you express yourself in a healthy way, and that means without shouting or accusing or demanding or manipulating. It means that the other person understands what you're saying and you feel understood. Then your communication has worked well. All right, so learning the art, because it's an art, it's something that we can learn to do. It's a skill we can learn. So that means practice. You know, somebody once said, learn to do by doing, and in this case, this applies. Learn to communicate by communicating. So let's look at the 8 ways that you can improve your couple communication. Number 1 is time. If you don't make time to communicate, it's not going to go well. Your communication is going to be haphazard, it's going to be dissatisfying, it's going to be on the fly while you're running out the door. Oh, don't forget whatever, and what are we going to do about whatever issue you're having? And you're never going to have satisfying communication because it hasn't been given time. So you need to set a regular time to talk and then stick to that time so that you can sit down and really communicate with each other. Don't only communicate when you have a conflict or you need to know what to do about Johnny's sore tooth. Set a regular time and spend that time talking, really talking about anything and everything, not just issues and conflicts, but good things as well. Number 2 is talk face to face. Don't message or email unless you really are not living in the same town at the moment, or you have to be apart for some other reason. But face-to-face communication is the best option. You know, Richard and I know of couples who fight via text message or fight via WhatsApp. That's not going to do it. You need to learn to be able to deal with a conflict face-to-face with the other person. It may be harder to do, but it's healthier to do. Number 3 is speak the truth in love. So that means being honest, but it also means be tactful. Learn to be tactful. Learn to say things in a nice way. Relationship demands honesty. So you need to feel free to share your thoughts, your feelings, your needs authentically, and then learn to be tactful and express yourself in a way that's not hurtful to your spouse. Number 4 is give each one a chance to talk. That may be hard to do because one of you may talk a lot more than the other, and we have some special friends who made an agreement that whoever was holding the item, and let's just say it was a salt shaker, whoever's holding the item is the one who's allowed to speak, and the other one has to be quiet and not interrupt. They had a big problem with interrupting each other, so they made this simple rule for themselves that whoever's got the salt shaker is talking, and the other one must be quiet and listen. Try this exercise where each one of you gets to talk for 10 minutes and the other person is only allowed to ask questions for clarity. They're not allowed to make comments or interrupt or give their point of view. They can only ask, okay, so what did you mean by that? Am I understanding you correctly? And each one gets 10 minutes, so you set the timer and each one gets 10 minutes to do that. And you may find that you learn some things about your spouse that you didn't know, just because you've allowed each other the time to talk and the other one is listening. And that leads me to the next point. Number 5 is learn to listen. James 1 verse 19 tells us to be swift to hear and slow to speak. Swift to hear means listen, but not only listen to reply, but listen to understand your spouse. Listen to what they aren't saying. Some common listening mistakes are people are listening, but they're thinking of what they're going to say next. Or they're thinking of something else altogether while the other person is talking. And then they're just going, and they're not listening. Or another listening mistake we make is we judge what the person is saying. Oh, so you're saying da 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 da. And we're not asking questions for clarity. Or else we listen with a specific outcome in mind. So learn to listen and really listen until you know that the other person is feeling understood and not just heard. There's a difference. Number 6, stick with it. Work through your disagreements until you're both okay with the solution. And let principle guide you as you aim for agreement. If you have no agreement, don't move forward. And so this may take multiple conversations and prayer because things aren't always resolved in one conversation. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes repeated conversations until you both feel understood and heard. Number 7, don't allow feelings to rule your communication. Isaiah 1 verse 18 reveals how God communicates, and it says, God is speaking and he says, come now, let us reason together. Come, let's reason. Let's not shout at each other. Let's not argue. Let's not let feelings rule us. Let's reason. Let's be reasonable. Okay, so if things get heated between you in a conversation when you're trying to sort things out, take some time apart to allow your feelings to simmer down. But then you need to make the commitment that you're going to come back together to resolve this conflict. You're not just going to split apart and carry on with life and pretend it never happened. The only reason you're taking time apart is because feelings are getting heated and you want time to get those feelings under control so that you can reason together instead of arguing and fighting. And number 8 is very important, and that is preserve the sacred circle of your home. So that means don't keep secrets from each other, but also don't share secrets about each other with friends or family. Now that doesn't mean you can't go to someone and ask for advice if you're in conflict and you don't know how to resolve it, or you've got a problem and you don't know how to resolve it. By all means, get advice from someone that you trust, but don't talk about your spouse, don't talk about your issues, don't talk about your conflicts with other people and share secrets that you wouldn't like shared if the shoe was on the other foot. That's it for the 8 ways of improving your communication. If you start putting these things into practice, you'll find your communication starts to work better and your conflicts will be resolved easier. And just remember also that it takes practice. Learn to do by doing, And that is communicate. When you mess up, come back, fix it, and try again, and just keep going until you do learn to communicate well as a couple. And if you have to get someone else involved to help you maintain your temperature while you are trying to resolve a conflict, then do that. But learn to communicate so that you can have that relational satisfaction that God wants you to have in your relationships. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so that you can receive notifications every time we post a new video. If you have a question or a comment, leave it below or email us. Our email address is in the description box below. And we'll see you in the next video.